Good morning, y'all. Happy Thursday. It is a overcast day here in Houston. I am Nicole Levy, aka Soul Sister. Thank you so much for joining me for our weekly Empowered Hour. It's every Thursday from 11 to around 12. I kind of just go till Creator tells me to stop. So starting at 11 each Thursday Central Time, we have Empowered Hour, which just helps. My ultimate goal and the goal that Creator kind of wanted me to drive home, or the point that Creator wanted me to drive home in creating this, is people have everything they need, right? They may need a little assistance here and there with maybe removing some karma or changing some beliefs, but ultimately you have everything you need. And so I just want to remind you of the perfect and the empowered and the aligned and intuitive being that you are, right? And for you to stay in that space consistently so you can create the life that you love. And so that's kind of my mission, right? And I'm very blessed and grateful to shift limiting beliefs at the subconscious level. Those can be beliefs that we've got in childhood that no longer serve us. That can be a lot of us go through trauma, whether that's something big like a breakup or a loss of a loved one, or something small. I mean, it's perspective, right? So it's not big or small, but whether that's something like maybe your toy gets stolen when you're younger, and then from that a belief is created that people are going to take your stuff, or I can't share because I have to protect my stuff, right? We all go through things, and they can kind of bring beliefs into our experience. And so we as theta practitioners help you guys, assist you guys with getting rid of those beliefs at a subconscious level so it can free you from that experience and you can have a new experience. So if you've never joined me before, that's a little spiel about what I do. We have to have 3 basic beliefs so that you can receive these healings and downloads. They are: I want an instant healing, I deserve an instant healing, and an instant healing is possible. So I'm going to shift those beliefs for you. But first, I need to hear a yes out loud wherever you're at, right? If you're in public, still say yes, but kind of under your breath. And then a yes in the comments below. And basically that tells the subconscious mind that you're ready to shift it. And then it also gives me permission as your practitioner, because you have free will. That gives me a go ahead and shift it for whomever says yes. So let's do those 3 basic beliefs. I want an instant healing, I deserve an instant healing, and an instant healing is possible. If you would like those, just say yes out loud and in the comments. Thank you. Beautiful. All right, so before we get started with our session, today's session is about boundaries. And I have a very special client and a very special friend who also happens to be family, who asked me a couple questions about boundaries this week, asked me for some resources on boundaries. And Creator gave me, not too long after, kind of a deep nudge that boundaries would be a great thing to say or to look into in our Empowered Hour session. So I did a little post on boundaries. I'm not sure if you guys saw it, but boundaries are basically our kind of notion. We can say it physically, we can say it out loud, which is normally the way that we want to communicate those, but they are kind of a guideline to others as to where we need to be met, right? So for instance, if someone comes to me and asks me, hey, are you available for a session, right? Which I've had many people do. Let's say it's a family member, right? I'm going to use my sister because she's pretty open. Let's say my sister comes to me and asks, hey, are you available for a session on Friday? And I say, no, I just don't have the availability or the energetic bandwidth to, have a session with you. that would be an example of a boundary that I've created to say, hey, I already have a commitment, or I'm just not available for a session, right? And I don't have to give that person any reason for that boundary. I can just say, no, that doesn't sound good to me. That doesn't feel good to me. Thank you though. Or I love you so much, but I'm not available on that day. Maybe I can do the following week on Wednesday between 12 and 2, right? So first off, those boundaries create limits because that's preserving my time. Maybe I need Friday off to, go run some errands. Or maybe I need Friday off to just take a me day, to take a day for myself. I know this week, guys, in real life has been crazy for me. So I've been taking a lot of time for myself to really take some downtime. Like, it's been a busy week in real estate and my business personally. So I've really kind of had to have strong boundaries with people to say, hey, no, I'm not available for that, right? And we're going to cover this in our session, guys, but and I'm speaking to myself to remind myself of this too. You don't owe anybody an explanation for why you have boundaries. Maybe it's a very personal reason. Maybe it's a boundary for intimacy because of something you experienced in your childhood. You don't owe anyone any explanation for your boundaries. No, period, is an answer for people, right? So my sister and I talk about that a lot. I used to over-explain a lot because I'd be like, oh, I need to tell them why. No, you don't. You don't owe anybody an explanation. No, period, is a reason. Like, no, thank you. No, thank you. Have a nice day, right? So we're going to do some work on that to make that an easier process. But I just want to remind you guys, we don't have an obligation to over-explain ourselves to people. And a lot of people, especially people that may have been empaths or people pleasers, or you were raised to do that, right? To kind of self-sacrifice or self-abandon. It's very easy to get caught in that trap. Like, I've literally written out a paragraph like, hey, I can't do lunch tomorrow. I have this and this and this. And I erased the whole thing. And I was just like, hey, I can't meet you for lunch. Have a great day tomorrow. Like, and two, guys, boundaries don't have to mean that you're being a B word, right? They don't have to mean that you're being an aggressive person or an a-hole. Like, they just mean that you're creating this space like, hey, this is where I end and Natalie begins, or this is where I end and my family begins, right? So the work that we do today is going to be to support us in our boundaries, to support us with saying, hey, I'm not available for that. Hey, I'm just too tired. Like, that's a relevant reason, and you don't have to tell anybody that. Like, man, I just need a self-care day and I need some time to be away from the world, right? So I say, no, I'm not available to meet you for lunch, period, right? So we're going to do some work, and creators already started kind of downloading these to me for boundaries. And guys, again, if anything comes up that you want to address and you're joining me live, feel free to just kind of put a little chat in the comments, a question, anything that comes up, maybe a memory comes up or a feeling, or you'd like to share. I love hearing from you guys. I love interacting with you guys and hearing feedback. So please feel free to do so. So let's get started. This is Empowered Hour, episode 4 with Soul Sister on boundaries. And I'm so glad you guys are joining me today for live or the replay. One thing too, Creator wants me to remind you guys, this work is just as good watching it in the replay as watching it live. So either or, you still get the work as long as you say yes out loud and in the comments. All right. Awesome. Let's get started. So first, Creator just wants me to share with you guys, this is pretty awesome. I ask archangels and angels and spirit guides and my ancestors and God to come in and help channel this, right? And there's a lot of angelic presence in this session. So I just want to let you guys know that, and to let you guys know that you are always divinely supported and protected, and to remind you that you have to call in your angels, right? There's guardian angels there and there's angels there, but a lot of times they still have free will, just like Theta. And so remember, I know for myself personally, before I leave the house and get in my car and drive somewhere, I literally say, archangels, please, make this a safe drive, make this a stable drive, and be with me and keep me secure and protected. So just a little love reminder to call in your guides and angels. You have a ton of support on the other side. I know for me personally, my grandma, my dad's mom, is a very big energetic presence that's there with me every single day. And I call her in and I just ask her to be with me and protect me and to guide me. So, and you can also ask for their love and support. So just don't forget that beautiful experience that you can have. All right, let's get started on boundaries with Soul Sister. Woo! Okay, so first we're gonna change what obligates you to overthink an angelic presence or angelic support or any other type of support on the other side, right? If you're asking your ancestors to come in, or God, or your higher power, just changing what obligates you to overthink that. And we want to also change what prevents you for asking from divine support for anything in life, whether you're having a bad day or having a great day. Maybe, I go to a closing and I ask God to be there, which I do very frequently. So you can ask for divine support in any time, any stretch of time, in any experience. Let's get Creator's definition of what divine support looks like, what it feels like, that it's safe and possible, and how it serves you to move forward in a different way with divine support. Beautiful. All right, I'd also like to get Creator's definition of boundaries. Again, when we get Creator's definition, we always get that we're in alignment with it, what it looks and feels like, that it's safe and possible, and how we can move forward doing it differently with alignment of that definition. So we're going to get a definition of boundaries, divine support, personal boundaries, Creator's saying, professional boundaries, emotional, mental, spiritual, physical, and ethereal boundaries. So like the different facets of boundaries. We just want to make sure that we're clear and concise on all of those, and that we have discernment on all the different terms. We want to forgive ourselves for any time that we lacked boundaries, right? Because we just do the best we can with what we've got, right? So if we don't know any better at the time, how can we change that? How can we do life in a different way, right? So this may be the first encounter you've had with boundaries, and that's okay. But we want to forgive ourselves for any time that we lacked boundaries, right? Because we didn't know how to do them, or no one taught that to us. So we're going to forgive ourselves first and foremost for that experience, Creator, and then anybody else who we had that misunderstanding with of boundaries. Typically, and I don't mean to generalize, but for a lot of people, that's with family, because we're taught in this culture to be very self-sacrificing, and a lot of families just don't have boundaries. We're getting there, right? But we're moving towards it step by step. So we're going to forgive our family and then any other sentient beings who we've had that misunderstanding with around boundaries. So if you would like those, just say yes out loud and in the comments, lovelies. Thank you. We're also going to forgive. Creator's saying everybody, ooh, I love the butterfly. I love the butterfly. Creator's saying that we're going through huge transformation. Every single one of us, like no one's exempt, right? It's going to be in different parts of our lives and at a different pace and different things for where we are in our journey. But Creator's saying we need to do a forgiveness protocol for basically any old version of self, right? Any past version of self. That could be 20 years ago. That could be when you were a baby or a fetus, right? When you were in your mom's womb. That could be now. That could be yesterday. So Creator wants to run the forgiveness protocol on all of those versions of self. Past lives, this lifetime, different paradigms, different timelines. We're going to forgive all those past versions of self. and creator. And then every single, this is huge, experience that we've ever had with any other sentient being. That could be people, places, people, plants, animals, anything living, any sentient being. Wow, that could be other realms. We might have come from like super, super evolved timelines in the past where there were other beings. So forgiving anything that's living. That's really beautiful. Let's go ahead and do that because it feels like a really big healing and download. So if you'd like that, just say yes out loud and in the comments, please, loves. Creator wants to download us with our divine beingness, with that divine spark. Creator wants to change what prevents us from knowing and believing and understanding that we are the divine. Like the God's always within us, that you always have access to your higher power, to this divine spark, to your higher self. However you want to kind of identify with that, it's all the same. We are divinity. Divinity is within us. A higher power and us are aligned, which is the highest and best version of ourselves, guys. So let's get Creator's download of divinity within, of our soul essence, of our higher truth, our higher power, our higher selves, right? And that all of that is like a big, beautiful heart of golden divine energy. And it's just constantly radiating through our being, right? And the more that we shift these limiting beliefs and do our work in consciousness, guys, to return to ourselves, that lovely, pure, innocent, childlike version of selves, the more that we can be kind of in line with that higher self, of that, those boundaries of self, of that authenticity and in our truth at all times. Let's get Creator's definition and downloads of our truth, of aligning with ourself, like what that looks and feels like, that it's safe and possible and that we can do it differently moving forward. So Creator's going to give us that definition of divinity within, of our higher power, of our truth, and then aligning with all of that, right? Because it's like a big, beautiful ball of yarn. It's all of this stuff that is just together and it makes us us. These divine beings, these beautiful, limitless experiences of divinity. So let's get that as well. All right, Creator, what else? I want to remove any trauma, karma, PTSD, triggering mechanisms, old timelines, old versions of self, identities, beliefs, triggering mechanisms, or anything related to where our boundaries were lacking, where someone stepped over our boundaries, where we felt betrayed or hurt or let down because of a lack of boundaries. I want to clear out any past life energy or this lifetime energy around any of those so that we can clear that slate, right? Clear the trauma so that we can have a new experience free from that trauma and we can do it differently moving forward. I want to run the forgiveness protocol on ourselves, Creator, and anybody else who was privy to those experiences or present in those experiences where we had a misunderstanding around boundaries. Beautiful. So if you would like those love bugs, just say yes out loud and yes in the comments. Thank you. Beautiful. I just had a beautiful comment that says, yes, I have been having triggers. Thank you. So let's change what obligates us to have triggers or be triggered around boundaries, right? To where people are just coming up in our experience, and because those beliefs or those traumas aren't healed, they're mirroring us. So it is triggering us. It's like they're directly pushing that button. Like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Right? Like they don't do it consciously, guys, but it's because we have that belief that's held within us. our external reality is being mirrored in that experience, right? So it's just, it's a very different experience. So let's go ahead and change what obligates us to be triggered by any type of experience with boundaries, whether that's somebody else's boundaries and then putting those up for us, or in any context, whether that's our boundaries and someone being triggered from a reaction to our boundaries, any type of boundaries. We want to change an obligation to react to any types of boundaries, ourselves or others. We also want to change what prevents us from doing boundaries in a different way with ourselves, with others, with our children, our spouses, anyone with family, anyone outside of ourselves, right? So we're going to change that experience. What else? We're going to change what prevents us from infusing love in our boundaries so that we can say our boundaries, speak our piece, and people can feel the unconditional love that's there, not only for ourselves first and foremost, but around us. So they'll receive your boundaries, yes, but they'll also feel deep love there. Like, oh man, Nicole loves herself, and that's very evident, so I'm going to respect where she's at. Or, oh, I feel Nicole's love for me, but I understand that she has to do this for herself, right? So that's really beautiful. So Creator's really going to infuse that experience of love into boundaries, of unconditional love into boundaries. We want to do a healing on the throat chakra, on the third eye chakra, and on the crown chakra so that we can channel through our intuition what is in our highest and best good related to boundaries, right? What is in our highest and best good related to speaking our truth, right? And so we kind of get this automatic little nudge, this little voice from Creator that's like, all right, Nicole, like, this doesn't serve you, what they or he or she is saying. So speak your truth. And I'm able to speak that not only infused with love, like we just said, but also in a way that's very channeled from Creator, right? Because there's a huge difference if I'm channeling something and it's this really compassionate and clear message that I should do that, versus like being really angry and aggressive and like coming from an angry or sad place around boundaries. So we want to change what prevents us from channeling our boundaries, from doing it from love and source, and what is in our highest and best good in alignment with our higher selves, right? So that we can always tell, man, I really need some downtime, so I'm going to have to be really strong with my boundaries tomorrow and tell people, hey, I need my space. Even to our children, guys, right? I know that that's a big one with a lot of moms, as like, you know, saying like, oh my gosh, I need to be there for my kid 24/7. Yes, but you can also tell them, hey, sweetie, go play in your room for the first 10 minutes of the day so mommy can pray or meditate, right? And that's going to make you be able to show up in a stronger way or a better way as a mother, in a more peaceful way, to be there for your child, but to also get your needs met. So let's change what prevents those of you with children from having boundaries with your children, from having boundaries with your spouse, with the people at your work and everybody else around you, right? Let's change what obligates you to feel guilt or shame or regret or any other low vibrational 3D energy, or to feel like Creator saying like you're betraying your child by putting up boundaries, like you're a bad parent, or any of the other low vibrational identities or experiences that your ego or your mind is trying to tell you. Like, oh, you're a bad mom if you have boundaries. You can't take time for yourself, right? There's just a lot of mental chatter around that. But God's saying, no, this is what's good for you. And you'll be able to show up as a better parent with boundaries, with yourself, with your children, and others. We want to forgive ourselves, Creator, and any other sentient being for having a lack of boundaries, like with our children, with anybody that's very close to us, with family, with our spouse. So if you would like all those, guys, just say yes out loud and yes in the comments. Thank you. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. All right, so Creator's telling me to pull some cards. I love the tarot cards, you guys know. So I prayed over the decks before we started to ask that the most perfect messages come through for anyone who's watching now or in the replay for their highest and best good in regards to boundaries. Creator asked me to do Energy Oracle cards by Sandra Ann Taylor. There's a picture of it. And I'll put it in a link to this deck in the comments below in case any of you are interested in it. And then I also have this awesome deck. I just got it Christmas time. It's called the Love Oracle card. It's by Island Time Wellness. And so it's a really great deck for kind of clarifying as well. So I'm going to pull some cards related to boundaries, and we'll keep going on this beautiful session around boundaries. All right. Creator, please show me what is in our highest and best good to shift at this time around boundaries. Can I just tell you guys how grateful I am to have you guys show up with me live and in the replay. It's one of my favorite times of my week. I just have this really profound sense of gratitude when I get to hop on here and we get to heal together and you guys get to be empowered. Yeah, I'm just so grateful. Guys, we have some amazing cards coming out. I'm going to show you as soon as I finish and Creators tells me like, hey, we're good. All right. Perfect. All right. Let's do 2 more, please, Creator. Ooh, there's some good cards, guys. I'm so excited. All right. Beautiful. Really, really cool. Bottom of the deck, Healer of the Ages. Just kind of a confirmation from Spirit. A lot of you guys are healers. A lot of you guys do theta work or you're working on yourself and transitioning and opening up to that you're a healer. Or just your divinity, right? Again, your higher self. So Creator just wants to congratulate you and tell you, good job, love. You're doing amazing. You're healing yourself. And by healing yourself, it's rippling out into the collective. And you're just doing amazing work. Kudos on your bravery and your love and just really promoting self-love and being you out in the collective and inspiring others simply by being you. So awesome. So the first card that we got is a broken heart. Frankly, guys, I'm not surprised that we got that. So around this one, there's been a lot of times that we've all had a broken heart from when we maybe should have put a boundary or could have put a boundary, but we didn't know any better, right? So Creator wants to do a heartbreak repair and a soul retrieval for any of the experiences in a past life or this life where we were heartbroken because of a lack of boundaries, where we were betrayed or disappointed or angered or frustrated or any of the above, any of the low vibrational 3D experiences due to a lack of boundaries. We also want to do a soul retrieval to call back in any missing pieces of our soul from experiences that lacked boundaries, whether in a past life or this life. So we're going to ask that Creator in that soul retrieval give us missing pieces of our soul and then return pieces of other people's souls that we had those experiences with back to them. Because guys, when we have an energetic exchange as souls, typically we take a piece of people's souls and we give a piece of our souls to people when we have kind of an energetic exchange, right? Like a relationship, like a friendship, even some we gave away consciously or subconsciously pieces of our soul around situations where we might have lacked boundaries or boundaries were involved in a past life or this lifetime. So if you would like all that was a mouthful, just say yes out loud and in the comments. Thank you, guys. Okay, so with that one, creator is saying, we're going to change what obligates us to be self-sacrificing in any way. We're going to change what obligates us to be obligated to be self-sacrificing. We're going to remove any attachment to being self-sacrificing, whether that's a dynamic we learned in childhood, whether that's an identity that we have, like, oh, I'm a really good person because I sacrifice my boundaries, because I sacrifice self, right? So we want to change any obligation or attachment to or identity around or any childhood programming around self-sacrificing, around sacrificing ourself or abandoning our boundaries, right? Whether we did this in childhood, in adulthood. I know I've had a lot of experience with this, and I still work on this on a daily basis on choosing myself as a priority, right? So we also want to change what prevents us from choosing ourselves as a priority, from making ourselves number one, guys. And that's even if we have children, right? We have to, or a partner or a spouse or a husband or a wife, we have to choose ourselves first. And if our cup is full and runneth over, then we can give, and we can choose to give to others if we would like to. It's a choice point, right? So I want to change what prevents us from choosing to do things, choosing to help, choosing to give of our time, right? So it's not just like a second nature, like, oh, I have to do this because it's my child. I have to do this because this is my best friend or my sister. No. The new earth, guys, the new way that we're going and the new relationship the relationship dynamic that we're moving forward is free from codependency, free from having to be obligated to show up for people. We do things because we choose to do it, because it aligns with our higher self. Now, if I choose to go help, bring food to the homeless or help a friend out, I'm choosing that. I'm not going to be in a space of resentment because I'm just doing it because of some sort of obligation. So I want to change what obligates us to show up for others out of obligation, out of a place of like, oh, they're my best friend, so I have to do it. No, people will understand, and your friendships will evolve in a way where people will respect you being in a space where you can't help, right? And if you can, they'll be appreciative of it. So let's change what prevents you from, I want to change an obligation to attract in people that you have a transactional relationship with. Like, oh my gosh, they did this for me, so I have to do this for them. That's not the way of relationships anymore, guys. The way of relationships is I do things because I'm a sovereign being, and I want to move forward in that way because I have my sovereignty and I'm liberated, and I choose to help. I choose to love. I choose to do life in this way, right? It's not out of obligation. That's not the way that we're living anymore, is out of obligation or because that's how our family does it. So I want to change what prevents us from doing things moving forward in a way of self-love, self-prioritization, choosing, in a way of choosing, right? So you're not obligated to do anything. I have a choice to do something. Free from resentment, free from any old low vibrational energies, and free from codependency. So Creator's going to kind of do that as a whole. That's really beautiful, and it's just going to completely change our relationships dynamics with others. Let's also change what obligates us to attract in any old types of relationships that no longer serve. That can be a spouse, that can be friendships, that can be clients in your business, that can be just people that you meet in life, right? Like a perfect stranger. I want to change an obligation to manifest, desire, resist, or attract in anyone that is unserving of my highest and best good. That could mean they take advantage of me. That could mean they lack boundaries or lack respect or they haven't done their work, right? So I just want to change the obligation to do that. And then I want to run the forgiveness protocol for any time that we have attracted those people into our lives, because we're just doing what we can with what we've got, right? We didn't know any better at the time. So forgiving ourselves, forgiving Creator, and then anybody that we've had those experiences with. Maybe it's an outdated friendship. Maybe it's someone I used to date, right? That no longer serves my highest and best good. So we're going to forgive everyone, ourselves, creator, and anybody else we've had that dynamic with in a past life or this life. So if you guys would like those juicy downloads, I know I would, just say yes out loud and in the comments below, loves. Beautiful. Thank you. All right, so the next card that we pulled for this beautiful work on boundaries is contract. And typically I get these when we are kind of in a karmic contract with others around whatever we're talking about, right? So we can incarnate in this lifetime to work out some karma, whether it's from past lives or this life. And I'll probably do a session on karma and karmic contracts and soul ties and soul bonds and karmic bonds and stuff in the future. I'll have to check in with Creator about that, but I kind of get a little inkling that we'll do a session on that. But what Creator is saying is that there's some karma that needs to be worked out around this. To me, yes, karma, there's a good and a bad karma, but sometimes we just have karma because of life experiences, right? So we're going to clear out any karma, karmic contracts, soul bonds, binding mechanisms, tethering mechanisms, cords, like cord cutting that we need to do, any old energetic residue, debris, calcified trauma or stuck energy that is held within any of the cells, body, organs, aura, auric field, any of the energy centers, so any of your chakras, your nadis, your meridians, any of your organs, like I'm hearing the brain is a big one for a lot of us, where any type of karma or karmic mechanisms, any binding mechanisms are being held that need to be released, removed, and completed for our highest and best good so we can do boundaries in a different way, right? And this is going to be very freeing, guys, and very empowering. Huge energy from Creator with this one. Huge compassionate energy, very liberating and sovereign energy. Okay, so Creator also wants to change what prevents us from being sovereign with our boundaries, right? And sovereignty, guys, is like, I am a sovereign being. I have freedom and self, and I am liberated, and I can still have relationships, but they're healthy, and I have a sense of independence. And when I do have dynamics, like with my cousin or with my sister or with anybody else outside myself, it's it's a healthy dynamic. It's a sense of interdependency, not codependency. I'm not dependent on people in a way that, leaves us not knowing where one person ends and I begin, right? Because that can get really murky and that can cause pain and suffering. So we're going to change what prevents us from being sovereign as a sovereign being. And we're going to change what prevents us from bringing sovereign, interdependent yet independent relationships into our life. Whether that's, again, spouse, business partners, someone you meet off the street, collaboration partners, soul tribes, soul groups. This can really, really change and make better your familial dynamics, right? Because if you're doing your work, you're going to be able to show up in the world in a different way and put strong boundaries, and people can meet you where you are. So that's beautiful. Or maybe they don't. Maybe they, we have to move on. So we want to change what prevents us from discerning what relationships are in our highest and best good. So we get clear downloads from Spirit, those clear intuitive hits that are like, I don't think this relationship really serves me anymore, and I'm going to send it love and move on, right? So let's do those. Let's also run the forgiveness protocol on ourselves, Creator, and anybody else who we've had karmic contracts with, who we've had maybe codependent dynamics with in the past life or this life. So if you'd like those, just say yes out loud and in the comments below, guys. Thank you. Beautiful. All right, so we're going to change what obligates us to be indecisive about life, about our boundaries, about what we deserve, right? In doing this new way of being. What we deserve in creating our boundaries and implementing our boundaries and instilling those and being strong in those. We want to change what prevents us from really having strength in our boundaries and having compassionate boundaries and having strong boundaries and living in that way consistently. We want to change what prevents us, the Angel of Balance card, from being balanced in life. We want to change what prevents us from being grounded in life and our experience. We want to change what prevents us from being balanced and grounded in our boundaries, in speaking our boundaries and speaking our truth and speaking, our authentic truth to people. Yeah. I had a situation this morning, guys, where I had to do that to a family member of mine. And I was like, it felt like I had baby deer legs, because I was like, what if I say this and she comes back and she's upset? How am I going to handle this? And I got this big, I had this big point of anxiety and kind of a mini freak out in my mind, and I hadn't even sent the text yet, right? So after I sent it, I just sent it some love and did my work around it on how I was feeling, did some theta on myself. And she came back and was like, yeah, I understand that. And I love you. Thank you so much. Y'all, I just created this whole scenario in my mind about what could have happened, and none of it even came true. And isn't that the truth of all of life? Like, you can create this crazy experience in your mind, and then when you actually go to do it, it's this beautiful experience, right? So, and it's funny, one of the next cards that we got, or two of the next cards, I'm going to show you both because they're both relevant, are the Thinking Woman and Anxiety, right? So I want to change what obligates us to have anxiety about boundaries. I want to change what obligates us to overthink when we're creating boundaries or implementing boundaries. I want, with anybody, right? Ourselves or others. I want to change what obligates us to live in a state of anxiety or overthinking or the monkey mind or the ego or stories, right? We used to call it in real estate like a drunk monkey, right? Like, monkey, go home, you're drunk, you're silly. Because this little monkey would just sit on your shoulder and be like, no one's going to want you to be the real estate agent. No one's going to want you to do this. Your business is going to fail. And it's your ego, right? Trying to protect you, but it's trying to keep you safe, not to help you grow. So we want to change what obligates the mind or that mental chatter or those stories or any like unrealistic element creator is telling me to get in the way of you creating boundaries. We want to change any obligation or identity or patterning or childhood coping mechanism around being super anxiety ridden or unable to create boundaries in your life. We want to forgive ourselves at a deep, deep level, especially that inner child part of ourselves, for a lack of boundaries, maybe when we were little, or a lack of boundaries now as an adult. And we want to forgive ourselves, creator, and anybody else who we had those experiences with, right, guys? Because now we know, now we can do it differently. And especially with this theta work, it's going to be much easier to show up in this way. So we want to also change what prevents us from flexing the muscle of boundaries, right? Sometimes, guys, we have moments where we want to instill boundaries, and it's still hard for us because it's a learned behavior, right? So first off, we want to change what prevents us. Cancel clear. We want to change what obligates boundaries to be a process so we can kind of learn it and do it more quickly. But we also want to change what prevents us from flexing the muscle in that way. From just, maybe my boundary today is saying no thank you to a friend when she invites me to lunch, right? Which is relatively easy. Not easy, but it's kind of an easier boundary than maybe instilling it with family about something big. And then tomorrow, I can tell my sister, hey, no thank you, that doesn't serve me, I'm not going to be available for that. And then maybe in 2 weeks I can tell my mom, hey, I can't do that, thank you so much for asking. So we kind of build ourselves up, right, guys? We can start really small, and then we can go move to things bigger. And then over time, it's just going to become habitual. We're going to be like, wow, look at me implementing boundaries and being awesome. So, and let's change what prevents. Trust me, I've had those experiences, but I did it. And I'm celebrating myself. And look at me growing and being amazing. So let's change what prevents us from really celebrating those little wins in life. Not just in boundaries, guys, but creators telling me in all areas of life. Maybe I took some more self-care today for myself. Huge win. Maybe I stood up and did something courageous today. Huge win. Maybe I made myself a glass of tea and I wanted a soda. Huge win. You know what I mean? So, guys, we have to celebrate ourselves because this human journey, it can be exhausting, right? So we got to do these little wins and really check in with ourselves and really be self-aware and really celebrate ourselves. So let's change what prevents us from checking in with ourselves and then celebrating the small wins with ourselves. Let's change what obligates boundaries to be hostile, what obligates us to sound aggressive or like be militant or like a military, like I have to go to battle to do my boundaries. Like, no, you can't do that. And maybe sometimes, guys, there's some people that are warrant those boundaries, right? But boundaries don't always have to be hostile. Boundaries don't have to be draining. So let's change what obligates boundaries to be draining. Let's change what obligates boundaries to be hostile. Let's change whether that's us giving the boundary or us receiving the boundary. Let's change what obligates boundaries to be like in a distorted masculine element, like angry or hostile or mean or overly authoritative or dominating. Let's change what prevents us from showing up in our boundaries in a loving way, in an easy way, a flowing way, a fluid way, a courageous and a brave way. And let's get Creator's definition of any other positive virtue that we need to be downloaded with that's going to assist us in boundary. Like Creator is telling me kind of here, sovereignty and liberation and flow and ease and grace and compassion, like all of that can be a part of our boundary process. So Creator is going to download us with whatever else we need to do boundaries in an easy and aligned and loving way. So if you would like all of those, guys, just say yes out loud and in the comments below. Thank you. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I'm so excited, guys. This is really profound work. Thank you for sticking with me on this journey. So the next two cards that Creator showed, and Creator's telling me to show both, are yin and yang, which is about like divine masculine and feminine balance, union of self, and then strategy, right? So I want to change what prevents us from being in union with ourselves so that our divine masculine and feminine can come into union and we can do boundaries in that way, right? With both a feminine and masculine essence. Let's get Creator's download and definition of using our divine union self to create boundaries and to have a strategy around boundaries. Yeah, let's change what prevents us from being strategic with our boundaries in a very loving and a divine way. Let's change what prevents us from being in union and in balance in ourselves and in our divine masculine and feminine. Let's also change what prevents us from opening our boundaries for our highest and best good and receiving blossoming abundance, right? From being in our authentically aligned self, from being in our boundaries, from having those beautiful boundaries for self and others to then turn around and be rewarded with a sense of blossoming abundance. So let's change what prevents blossoming abundance from coming into us easily and effortlessly. Let's change what prevents us from receiving all of the gifts that instilling and implementing boundaries in our life has to offer, right? Because Creator's saying abundance can come in so many forms, in healthy relationships, in supportive relationships, in tribe, and that's ultimately going to get us to all types of abundance, right? So let's change what prevents any types of our abundance from being like challenged or disjointed from us, or let's change what prevents blossoming abundance from flowing freely into our experience with grace and love and ease and effortlessness. And then the last card that we got, guys, was Door to Romance, which is really beautiful. For me, there's a huge undertone of self-love there. So Creator is really wanting, and it's a 33, which is a master number, beautiful, of like support and creativity and self-love. So I want to change what prevents us from being in a deep space of self-love when we're instilling our boundaries with ourselves and others. I want to change what prevents us from being rewarded with both blossoming abundance and self-love or loving relationships or dynamics when we create boundaries with others, right? So that's really beautiful. Like, basically, Creator's showing me the equation of like boundaries equals self-love and abundance. So that's beautiful. So I want to change what prevents us from being in alignment with that equation that Creator just gave us, right? Where instilling boundaries means abundance and door to self-love, door to healthy relationships with ourselves and others. That's really beautiful. All right, so Creator's saying we're going to do a healing on the amygdala. That's the emotional center of the brain. We're going to infuse it with pure pink, like this magenta pink kind of icy energy. The amygdala of the brain, to really heal it and optimize it so that we can do boundaries and emotions in a divinely aligned way. Beautiful. I'm doing a couple different, I'm doing one last little kind of a tarot reading from the Love Oracle cards that I showed earlier. Beautiful. So we're going to change what prevents us from, I got the Paradise card, which is beautiful. Again, with the abundance. We're going to change what prevents us from opening to happiness, expansion, joy, playfulness, and oneness from implementing boundaries, right? We're going to change what prevents us from showing up in our boundaries and receiving all of this goodness, all of this happiness, all of this expansion and joy because we have boundaries. It's beautiful. We're going to change what prevents us from committing to ourselves and our boundaries. We're going to change what prevents us from loving ourselves fully, wholly, consistently for the rest of time and into future lives as well. We're going to change. We're going to open up it's like a pink light energy that Creator is going to put in our heart so that we can consistently have self-love and boundaries. Creator's also going to put one of those in our solar plexus chakra, our power center or our will center. And so the heart energy and then the solar plexus energy on our stomach, these two lights are going to connect and just help us to be really in our center, to stay balanced and harmonious, and to be really in our heart space, but also in our truth and in our courage and in our bravery and in our power center to be able to instill boundaries really easily. Okay, and lastly, Creator's going to link that up to the throat chakra to be able to communicate boundaries in a different way moving forward in conjunction with our heart and in our gut as well, or our solar plexus chakra. Creator wants to do an upgrade to our throat chakra so that we can speak our boundaries in a different way, speak our truth in a more authentically aligned way. So Creator's going to send beautiful blue light energy. It's kind of like the blue on this box, like really profound blue light energy to our throat chakra to remove anything that no longer serves in that area, but also to heal and optimize and upgrade our truth, our boundaries, our communication abilities. We want to change what prevents our truth, our communication, our boundaries, and our our authenticity from being amplified, from being upgraded, from being whatever way isn't our highest and best good. Creator is going to upgrade it in that way, right? So if you would like that, just say yes out loud and in the comments. Good stuff. Beautiful. All right, guys. So I am hearing that is all for today. Wow. I think we're almost at an hour. Beautiful session. A deep thank you again to the beautiful person who kind of gave me a little nudge, a little download from Creator around this boundaries session. Thank you so much for being you, for speaking your truth, and for the insight on this beautiful session today. I'm grateful to you, and namaste, sister. I would love to hear how you guys are feeling right now in this moment. Check in with yourself and just kind of be aware of how you're feeling. Maybe you're feeling lighter than when you got into this session. You're so welcome. I'm glad that it resonated, and sending love back to you every single day. Yeah, just thank you for showing up. Thank you for being you. Thank you for showing up to this beautiful empowered hour. May it assist you in your journey, and may you have deep self-love. One of the participants on here is saying she feels amazing and a lot lighter. I love to hear that. Thank you, love. Thank you, soul sister. I'm feeling lighter too, guys. Don't forget to drink water today. This is a big session. You're moving a lot of old karma and trauma and energy. That's the clock where I'm staying. So I'm going to call it like the bell of truth. My grandparents actually used to have kind of a cuckoo clock that was similar. So just a little side note. I love that. So drink lots of water, guys, today. Take care of yourself. You've done amazing work. It's a really powerful time in the collective. Go outside, get some grounding, get your feet in the grass. I know I'm about to do that as well. And just enjoy yourself. Celebrate these wins. Celebrate the theta work that you've done. Bye.